Alright, so full disclosure, I'm recording this ahead of time. I'm basically doing this after I actually have done a full run of the Dawn of the Infinite Mega Dungeon on Mythic. I found a group, and we blazed through it. I got to go through it for the first time. They were nice enough to just kind of like remind me about a few little things about the fights. Even though I told them I had watched guides, they were like, okay, at least you have a starting idea of what we're dealing with. They were pretty well geared, and we were able to pull off. So I am basically going to wait until the heroic difficulty of this dungeon comes out, because it's pretty rough. And that's when I will show you guys the story of that dungeon. I will put it before this video in the playlist, so that way you can then watch me do the dungeon and show the story before we actually, turn the quests in. But once you watch those parts, you'll see what leads to this. So we, of course, had the quest. Get that off the screen. But it doesn't matter. Which was Dios must be behind this all. Let's head into the Bronze Temple. We need to stop Dios before he ruins the timeline. So, yeah, we ended up having to, to kind of quickly run through what we went through here. I will, of course, talk more about this when I show you guys the videos. You probably, if you're watching the playlist, you probably already watched them. But yeah, we took on Iridicron to try and stop them succeeding, but turns out they had actually succeeded in turning him to Morozond. But Chromie wouldn't let that happen, so she rewound time back again to basically before we started the dungeon, and we went through it differently, encountering different bosses, including Tyr and this timeless battlefield. Then we took on her evil altar counterpart, Morchi, and then instead of dealing with Iridicron, we went the other direction and dealt with Dios, while encountering the Aspects back when they were Protodrakes, and prevented him from being able to actually turn him into Morozond. And when we took him out, by the way, I got a couple of pieces to drop. Nothing else really significant. In case you're curious, this is where I'm currently at right now, 432. I am waiting for the catalyst to be able to change these. I am working on getting some other better pieces, including having a guildmate craft me a 447 of the special thorn boots that are supposed to be really good for demon hunters. And I was able to do that because I was able to actually make 4 aspect crests, which allowed me to have them make an enchanted one, which will allow me to have a piece made at 447 item level. And, so I gear-wise, nothing super special. But what also did drop was this from Dios. A mysterious time relic. What was Dios doing with this? So, let's go talk to Nosdormu.
The sands of time are plentiful, but precious. Certain events are...
It's all thanks to you. You have saved us from the Infinite's terrible dawn. But even more so, you have saved me from a fate that I thought was all but inevitable. You have my eternal gratitude. We get Chromie's stasis trap as a toy.
The one
cute.
Must be preserved.
So about this relic.
Open your mind to what is yet to come.
Thank you, champion. Without you and Chronormu's bravery, I could not imagine what would have...
Nosdormu? Nosdormu! Everything's back how it was.
Not everything. The clouds in my vision have parted, and I can breathe without doubt or despair. I feel alive again. Thanks to you.
But what of Iridicron?
While we stopped the Infinites, Iridicron escaped through a kind of void tear, taking Galakrond's essence with him.
A void gate. His dark dealings have come to fruition.
It Feels like he's leaving this war to his kin. His hatred for the Titans is all he cares about.
Nosdormu, can you perceive where he has gone?
He has passed beyond my sight. All I see now are burning embers, encroaching upon...
Marithra must be warned. If Farak leads their forces now, he will be vicious and strike where we are most vulnerable.
The World Tree.
Yes, as dangerous as he is. For now, we must leave Iridikron to his schemes, and steel ourselves for whatever Farak and Viranoth are preparing to unleash. The defense of Emir Drasil comes first.
No matter what lies ahead, you were right, Pronormu. The future is worth fighting for.
I suppose that answers Chen's question from Pandaria. What is worth fighting for? And I believe that is the first time we've actually heard her name drop the name of the new World Tree. Emir Drasil.
Our final meeting, or our first?
Konomu mentioned that she found a time relic after your fight with Morchi. That device forced time to move quickly forward. It seems this relic is of a similar power, only it can rewind the threads of time, returning one to an earlier point. I shall safeguard it. We would not want such a device to fall into the wrong hands. More flight stones and a couple of worm Shadowflame crests. Yeah, that's nice. That's helpful.
Focus on the now.
Can use that to upgrade a couple pieces, or save up for a third one and make another enchanted crest. So I'll have to wait and see what I want to do with those. But yeah, that basically finishes off the questline of what we dealt with here in this dungeon. So this is what I and some other people were concerned about, was what they were doing with the whole Murazan thing. They kind of allowed it to happen, but then when you see the videos, if you've watched this and played this, you've already seen the videos, you saw how they succeeded, but Chromie basically within, just would not allow us to lose, just taking us back. And it was like the first version of the first half of the dungeon was still going through, but then this other half, when we go back in time, there's like two versions of us. We don't actually see the first half, but the idea is that our first half kind of goes to deal with Iridikron, but sort of not really, because he does still get away. So we kind of make different choices to go different places, supposedly, at least at the end. That rather than go deal with Iridikron, this time we went to go after Dios, and that's what ultimately saves Nosdormu from becoming Murazan. So now, what was apparently like a solidified fate, that he would eventually become Murazan no matter what, now it has basically been prevented. But then again, this is time travel, so you can never really definitively say this is now going to be the way it is for good, and no one can ever go back in time and try to prevent that from happening again. And yeah, let's just say I don't expect Blizzard to leave this alone and be like, yep, we're going to wipe our hands of this and never bring up the whole Murazan thing ever again. We'll never hear from the Infinite Dragonflight ever again. Yeah, I don't expect that to be the case. Knowing Blizzard and how they like to reuse stuff. I'm sure at some point we will hear from them again somehow, some way. But for now, their efforts have been stopped, and now we can just go ahead and focus back on what's going on. And I was concerned, like, oh, is this the final battle against Iridikron in a dungeon? Because I for sure thought he was going to be a raid boss, the way they were building him up. And when I saw he was in the dungeon, I was like, wait, this is how we stop him? No, not really, because, we stop Dios and save Nosdormu, but when you see in the cutscene, he gets this thing. We don't really know what exactly it is, but he's like, this is what we need to be able, this is yet another piece we need to be able to fulfill our ultimate plan against the Titans and such. And, yeah, you'll listen to his speech in the cinematic. And then, of course, yeah, he goes through a void gate, which haven't I not been pointing out how we keep having these teases about the old gods, or rather, the Void Lords still being active. Whether or not the old, because the Void Lords probably could just bring them back. I mean, who's to say the Void Lords are not powerful enough to just simply revive or bring back the old gods? I mean, it's been constantly getting teased in this expansion that the old gods and the Void are certainly not dealt with. And it looks like that's what this next tease is that, he's going to continue to work on his dealings to get what he needs. While we now have to go back to, oh yeah, that's right, Farak is kind of flying around with the power of the Shadow Flame, burning the place. At least when it comes to, in gameplay senses, he's down here right now, just kind of assaulting the Azure Span. But, story-wise, in lore, imagine that Key is now kind of flying around, trying to, burn some of these places to the ground. And the idea now is that maybe he's going to make his way over here to the Narn Plains and go towards the Shady Sanctuary. Which I would absolutely expect Farak to try to do. And just burn the whole Emerald area to the ground. Because why would he not? So, yeah, I just want to go ahead and show that off. While I also want to go ahead and turn those in so I can get those rewards. I don't think I'll be, I won't be able to show this, but another thing I got as a reward for this, which can drop, but it doesn't show here in the loot table. By the way, the mount did not drop, and, hopefully I'll have more chances to get this mount. But something else that can drop is other scales for your dragon riding mounts. Infinite scales. In fact, it dropped for my Proto-Drake here. And this is what it's supposed to look like. If I can try and really show, you can kind of see the mixture of black and white on his scales here. If you look close right there. Trying to really show it here. You can see right there, it's kind of that glow on the scales that the Infinite Dragonflight has. That's what it can drop for each dragon riding mount. Because if you look at the customization options for the Drakes, it shows up as an option, and it shows you that it's available via this dungeon. By the way, if you're wondering, what other cool loot drops in this dungeon for other classes? Well, the cool stuff that I noticed was, hold on a second, there we go. Take a look at this. So, how many of you want another version of Gorehowl? So, there's the version from Karazhan and Burning Crusade. There's the versions that Garrosh drops in Siege of Orgrimmar and Mists of Pandaria. And now there's this one. So, yeah. I'm sure that, I don't know what Demonbane does, but I'm sure it's a pretty cool effect and such. The other thing that can drop from this particular fight is this one right here. Now, I already have Quell Dalar, so I have the same sword model from doing the Quell Dalar quest. In fact, I made a video on that quest line. You can head on over to the Extra Stuff playlist and watch that quest line if you want. But this is also something that can drop, and, I can't really use this as a Demon Hunter because it only has strength, not agility. So, unfortunate for me. Yeah, when it comes to Demon Hunters, basically, one of the only, useful things... I mean, the trinket is, I guess, somewhat considered decent, but not really. There's really nothing great that drops for Demon Hunters, except maybe this Warglaive right here, because of Time Strike. And it does have Critical Strike and Haste, which I don't mind at all, but... Honestly, would it be better than what I already currently have? Which, I've already recrafted my other weapon here to be a 437 with Crit Strike and Haste, and I of course I also got a Bile-stained Crag Tusks from doing a high Underrot key, so yeah. Let's just say that some of these pieces on their own are not super great, but they could be if, let's say, you're trying to, gear an alt or something, but yeah. Honestly, the real prize here is, of course, this mount right here. I'm so just eager to see how this works and if this actually would let me get mounts that I have not been able to collect yet. But yeah, that's the Dawn of the Infinite quest line with the Mega Dungeon, which, I will record later on when the heroic difficulty goes live, and then I will upload this after that. But in regards to what story happens, I've been working on my rep. This is where I'm currently at with my renown for these factions. I am almost done with Valdrak and Accord, but that's not the main one I'm focusing on, because this is the one, because as I've said, I want to get to this so we can show this quest line. I'm just currently working on getting closer to, just a few renown levels away. I'm almost there, guys. Once I unlock it, I'll be able to show you that quest line. Until then, stay tuned.